Now we have come to the last exercise, exercise 40. So here you'll write the code for an encrypt decrypt messenger. So to complete this challenge, you have to import the string module and use the ASCII letters method from this string module. Pause the video and try it yourself. Take a look at this picture. So this explains how to go about to complete this challenge. So the first thing we'll ask the user is the message to encrypt or decrypt. So that will be the first thing we are going to ask. Once the user enters the message, we'll ask this second question, that is whether to encrypt or whether to decrypt. If the person chooses to encrypt, then we are going to ask the key. What is this key? Let's see. So here I have a variable called alphabets. And inside this variable, I have a long string. And this string is composed of the alphabets in lowercase followed by the uppercase. So where did I get this string from? I got this from the string module using the ASCII letters method. So let's say, for example, the user enters a message hi. So in this variable, h has an index 7, I has an index 8. So we have the message, we know the index of these two characters from this string alphabets. Now we are going to ask the key. Let's say, for example, the user enters a key as 2. Now what we are going to do? We are going to add these index by 2 and pick that character which is associated with that index from the alphabet. So for example, if I add 7 by 2, I'll get 9. And when we count from 0 from the string 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it corresponds to J. Similarly, when I add 8 by 2, I'll get 10. That will correspond to K. So I'll pick J and K from this string and add it to a variable called encrypted message. So this is the encrypted message. So I have used the key, added the key with the index of the original message. Then with the new index, I am picking the characters from the string alphabets and adding it to another variable called encrypted message. So this will be your final encrypted message. To decrypt this message, we again need the key. But here we are going to subtract the index of J and K with key. While encrypting, we added the index of H and I with key, whereas here we have to subtract it so that we'll get the correct message. So when we subtract J, which has a key of 9 by 2, we'll get 7, and K has an index 10. When we subtract it with the key, we get 8. So 7 and 8. So when we pick the 7th and 8th character from the string, we get the original message hi. So that will be your decrypted message. So this is what I've said in this flowchart. So based on the key, we are going to add the key with the index. And if the person chooses to decrypt a message, he has to again enter the key, and we are going to subtract the index with the key. Now with this understanding, we'll see the code for the exercise. So here in line 1, I'm importing the string module using the import keyword. Next, from this string module, I'm taking the ASCII letters method. That is a string which contains all the alphabets in lowercase and uppercase. So I'm taking that string and assigning it to a variable called alphabets. Next, on line 3, I've created an empty list called encrypted message, and on line 4, I've created an empty list called decrypted message. Now I've created two functions called encrypt and decrypt using the def keyword. We'll see the code inside it after we discuss the while loop. Now here in line 22, I've created a while loop and kept the condition as true. So this will continue repeatedly until it encounters a break statement. Inside the while loop, first I'm asking the question to enter the message or to press Q to quit. And I've passed the lower string method so that all the message characters are converted into lower string. Now that will be stored as the message. If the person presses Q, then I have created an if statement here. The if statement will be true if he presses Q, then the loop will break. If not, that is if the person enters a message, then I'm going to ask the next question. That is whether to enter E for encrypting or D for decrypting. Whatever the response the user gives, I'm going to assign it to a variable called ND. Next, I'm asking the user to enter the key between 1 and 9. He can enter any number between 1 and 9. That number I'm passing inside an int function to convert it into an integer and storing it in key. Now, based on this question, that is whether he presses E or D, I have created an if else block here. If the user enters E, then the if statement returns true and the if block will get executed. Now, what's inside the if block? Since he has pressed E, he wants to encrypt the message. So I'm calling the encrypt function here. And inside the encrypt function, I am going to pass in the message which the person wants to encrypt and also the key which the user has entered. So these are the arguments which I have passed inside. Now let's see what's inside the encrypt function. So inside the encrypt function, first I've used the global keyword and made this list as global. That is, I've made the empty list encrypt message global so that whatever changes happens inside the function, that is, if we want to add something to the global variable, that action will be possible. And one more thing is that inside the encrypt message, I'm keeping two parameters, message and key. So I'm using the for loop and taking each character from the message to encrypt, and that character will be assigned to the variable called letter. Next, I'm using the if statement to check if the letter is in the alphabets variable. That is this alphabet variable in line 2, which contains all the alphabets in lowercase and uppercase. So if it is there in this alphabets, if the condition returns a true boolean, then this block of code will get executed. So what are we doing here? We are taking the index of that character from the alphabets and adding the key to that index. For example, what we have seen in the last example, that hi, hi, right? H has an index of 7, and when the user entered 2 as the key, we added 2 to that 7, and now the new index is 9, right? So that is what we are doing here. So whatever the new index we get, I am assigning it into a variable called new index. And using this new index, I am taking that character concerned with that new index from this string, and I am going to append it to the empty list encrypt message on line 3. This is why I have used the global keyword, so that whatever change happens in line 11 can be executed. Now, if the message contains any other character which is not present in this string, that is, for example, if there is a space, so this if block returns a false boolean, and now the else block of code will get executed. And what is it doing? It is directly taking that character, for example, a white space, and appending it to this list encrypt message. So once we have got the message, now we'll go to while loop. Once line 29 is executed, now we go to line 30. So here we are using a print function along with an f string, and we have used the join method to join all the elements inside the list encrypt message without a space as mentioned here. Now once the message is joined and printed, next we are going to delete that message from the encrypt message list. Why are we doing this? Because again, if the while loop runs, whatever message is in list will remain in the list, and next time when we want to encrypt a new message, it will lead to confusion. So that's why after we print the encrypted message, we are deleting it from the original list. Next, if suppose the user enters D to decrypt, then the if block will return a false boolean and the else block of code gets executed. So here, first we call the decrypt function and I have passed message and key as the argument. So when we go to decrypt function, here we have two parameters, message and key. Now again I've used the global variable and made this empty list decrypt message in line 4 to be accessible inside the function. So whatever changes are made in the function can be executed here. Now I've done almost the same what we have done here except for the minus sign here. So first I'm taking the message and taking each character and assigning it into the variable letter using the for loop. Next I'm checking with the if statement if the letter is inside the alphabets, that is this main string alphabets. If it is there, then this block will get executed, and inside this block what we are going to do, we are taking the index of that letter from the alphabet string and subtracting it with the key. Remember, to decrypt we have to subtract it with the key. Now that will be the new index. Next, from that alphabet string with this new index, I am taking the original character and appending it to the empty list decrypt message. If a space is entered, then this statement will be false because alphabet has only alphabets in lower and upper cases. It doesn't have a space. So now else block of code will get executed and directly that space is appended to the decrypt message. Once this for loop is completed, then we're executing line 34 and using a print function and f string and also a join method, we are going to join the elements inside the list decrypt message without any space and that will be printed. Once printed, we are reassigning an empty list to the original list decrypt message so that the next time this list on line 4 will be empty. Let's check this code, hit run. Now I'll type a message, hello world. When I hit enter, it's going to ask whether to encrypt or decrypt. I'll press E to encrypt, hit enter. I'll choose 4 as the key. Now we get a message like this. I'll just copy this message and I'll paste this message here and hit enter. Now I'll press D to decrypt. And what was the key initially provided, which was 4. Now I'll type 4 here and as you can see we have the correct message and I'll press Q now to quit the program. Done.